Good morning, everybody. So my name is Stephanie Howe. I am currently an instructional technology coordinator in Pickerington Local School District, and I help teachers, students, staff, pretty much whoever needs help with technology, using it in an instructional way. I don't really know how to fix the broken stuff, but if I can help with instruction, that's kind of my job. And so one of my favorite things to do with teachers is the grid method. And so we're going to learn a little bit more about the grid method today and practice some different things using this type of method. One of the reasons I really love using this method is because it personalizes learning. Before my current role, I was a special education teacher in an inclusive environment. And so what that meant is I was able to co-teach all day, and I had to help students who had a wide range of abilities. Some students were below grade level, some were on grade level, and then other students were above grade level. And so trying to meet those needs and individualize their learning was a challenge. And so once I learned about the grid method, it really did help these students be successful. I'm a Google innovator, trainer, coach, and pretty much everything Google. So I absolutely love using Google products. So let's go ahead and get started. This is an interactive session, so you will be a student for a little bit of this presentation, and you will be able to do that. So if you could, please go to this link. It is a bit.ly, and the capital letters are capitalized in the link. In the chat, I'm going to type it in for you, but it's bit.ly/SYD, and yes, SYD is all capitalized. So if you could go ahead and go here, you are going to need the presentation throughout the session. So there are a couple slides where you will need to be able to click. So please make sure you can get on and you have access to all of the session materials. Feel free to use any of the materials that are linked in here. And I'm going to put it in the chat just because we have some more individuals joining us during this session. So it's in there like 3 times right now. So once you're there, I'm going to keep going. And it is also on this link. So again, the grid method really changed my instruction. When I was a student in school, I hated school. I had dyslexia, and I really struggled in school. And a lot of my instruction was direct instruction. So a lot of my teachers taught from the front of the room all day, every single day. There wasn't a whole lot of small group work. There wasn't a whole lot of talking. It was a lot of worksheets and reading. And with dyslexia, I really struggled with reading. So that was a huge struggle of mine. And I didn't want to be there. It wasn't fun. It wasn't interactive. It was a lot of you listen and then we're going to do this worksheet. Not a whole lot of hands-on learning. And then I also became a teacher because I realized school needs to change, especially the way that things are going. And every student has strengths and weaknesses. I'm going to put the link again in the chat for those that are just joining. And I learned really quickly as a teacher, every student learned differently. I knew that from my own experience. I didn't learn the same way as my peers. And so I realized I needed to change the way that I taught. I can't do direct instruction every single day. I also, I'm the type of person that has to be constantly busy. And so I got bored very quickly. And because I was bored, I realized I need to add some fun into my instruction. And so this allows me to add different activities into my instruction. So those are like the 3 reasons of why I wanted to change how I was teaching. Before my first year of teaching, I was burnt out, and it was like only 6 months in, and then Christmas break came, and I started to go online and find resources. And this thing called Google Classroom was brand new back in 2014, came out, and I learned how to use it with my students. They felt more successful with that technology. And so I'm really excited to bring that to you today. In Pickerington, we use a word, it's called tradigital learning. And it's taking the best practices from a traditional classroom and blending those with a digital classroom. And so we use this word a lot, and our teachers go through different stages. We also have like a blended learning rubric Our teachers go through these different stages to enhance their traditional learning. So every teacher, just like our students, is at a different phase. Instead of doing a whole lot of whole group instructions, I meet with teachers one-on-one to really help them dig into and meet them exactly where they're at. And so with this, we use this matrix. It's not like a grade. We just kind of use it to help understand where teachers are. And everything with the grid method goes along with this resource. So I had to change my instruction just because students weren't really taking ownership in their learning. And that was a huge problem. It was a lot on me. And a lot of the parents were like, well, what are you doing? And it should have been more of what is the student doing? I was failing to reach every single student when I was using direct instruction in my own classroom. I wasn't meeting the kids where they were and helping them grow. There was a lot of management issues, just because kids were bored or because they didn't get it. And instead of showing those emotions, they acted out and caused a lot of behavior issues. There was low student performance, students performing pretty awful on common assessments or formative assessments. So those are just some common problems that we see in education. And so the solution with the grid method is it holds learners to be accountable in what they can do. They're able to understand content at their level and then move when they need to move. Some learners, it might take them 2 days to master the material. Other learners, it takes them 20 minutes. And so being able to connect with students in that way is so helpful. It also lets the students set the pace for how they need to learn. And then I was able to provide high expectations for students through this mastery-based system. And so again, you're going to need this link right in the chat. I will set it again for those of you that are still not there. On this slide, slide number 8, if everybody could go to slide 8, that would be awesome. So we're actually going to explore the grid method. So you're going to be a student after I give instructions. You're going to first click this slide, the one that's the Google slide. We're going to use the Google slide today. There's also a paper version. If you don't like the Google slide version, I try to differentiate and provide different models of what this could look like. So go ahead and click the Google slide. I'm going to share this tab. And on this slide, we're going to learn how to color today. So again, you're the student for this section. And there's different levels at the top. So we have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5. So make sure you are on slide number 8 and you click this slide presentation right here. Do not click the paper one. You can if you want to see it, but we're going to be using this one today. And then once you're in, over on the side, all of our teachers had to create a class syllabus. So that is over on the side. So you could change this text over here and add it to fit your classroom if you needed. The next tab you're going to open up, so you should have the presentation on slide 8. You should have this slide deck right here. And then the next tab you're going to open up is this master tracker. And a crazy spreadsheet is going to open up. Okay, so you're going to need 3 tabs open. Well, 4, I guess, because you'll need the Google Meet also. All right, so you should have 3 tabs open right now. I'm also going to put the link really quickly in the chat just in case anybody is showing up late. Feel free to join us on slide 8. Okay, back to the slide. So on here, I also have Google Classroom. So kids can just click very quickly and go to their Google Classroom assignments. I've also seen teachers put their Bitmoji classrooms here where they link all their assignments or their weekly agenda. And then we also have SOPs. So these are standard operating procedures just to remind students of expectations. So as you can see, once you click up here on level 1, because that's where everybody's going to start today, it opens up to the directions for level 1. Same thing, if I click level 2, it's going to take the students or yourself to level 2. Level 3, same thing. So it is a clickable slide, and to do that, you just take this little bar and you use the infinity link sign and you just link it to slide 2. So you click like in the presentation, link it to this slide. So that's how you kind of set up this type of presentation. So with level 1, because today we're all going to start at level 1. However, with students, as I get to know them, I might have a pretest and know that these students don't need level 1, half of them. So I'm going to start them at level 2 or level 3, depending on the student's needs. And levels are based on depth of knowledge. So level 1 is recall. So it's going to be a lot of quick, easy information. Once you get to level 2, you're going to use that information that you learned from level 1 and start to apply it. And then you're going to begin to go up the DOK levels, so Webb's depth of knowledge. Where level 4, you're really beginning to expand your knowledge. And then level 5 is more of that genius type of project. So again, we're going to start at level 1. And the first activity right here, if everybody could go to the Google Sheet, and you're going to find a spot and type your name on the Google Sheet just like I did. So just go ahead and find a spot on row or column B and then type your name in, and that's going to be your row for this activity. Once you have your name in, you're going to go to 1A and you're going to say you're working, and it's going to turn blue. I can quickly see on this spreadsheet how my students are doing on their assignment. I can see that every single student is working, or I can go up to CJ and be like, you're not working. You need to update your tracking sheet so I know where you're at. And in the past, we've had some questions or concerns about FERPA, and I have a way to make this tracking sheet so every student has their own, and then all their information goes to you on a master sheet, and I can talk more about that at the end of the session. For this session, since I didn't know your information beforehand, I wasn't able to set that up, but I can show you that if you think that would be another route. Another thing with FERPA is you could add like nicknames here, and the students could have their own row and look at it that way. You can also protect the ranges of this sheet, so only that student can edit their row. So I will also show that after we get started. And then over, we can see that some of you have found that if you click this down arrow, you can change it to needs help. If you need help during this presentation, you're going to get about 10 minutes to explore the grid on your own and ask questions in the chat. If you need checked, you can change it to check me, and I can look over and give you feedback on how you're doing. So you can quickly see how to communicate with the teacher. Once we complete 1A, so 1A is, going back to our slide, is learning how to hold a pencil. So you're going to change the box 1A to blue. So if you haven't done that, please do so. And then you're going to watch this video. So once the students watch this video, they then do this quick check. So there's a quick check right here that the students are going to do. After they complete that video and quick check, they go back to their tracking sheet. So they go back to that spreadsheet and they change 1A from working to finish. And then they go to 1B and they begin to start working again. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes, and you're going to complete as many activities as you can. You will not finish within the 10 minutes unless you're an expert colorer, which some of you might be. But you can just explore as a student would. And during this time, please ask questions during in the chat, and I can answer them during this time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set a 10-minute timer, and you're just going to start at 1A. And you're going to go all the way as far as you can. Again, you probably won't finish today, and that's totally okay. And so typically I'd be looking at the spreadsheet too during this time, and I can see that Apple needs help, and I would go over to that student and provide one-on-one assistance to them. I can also check in with Danielle and ask her why she hasn't gotten started yet and if she needs help. So I'm able to provide that instruction. I can also look at 1B and see who started working on it, and I could pull them up for a small group to provide assistance as needed. So I really love the tracking sheet, being able to see who needs what and who needs more assistant or who needs less assistant. And again, I put the bit.ly in the chat just in case anybody needs it. We have about 3 minutes left on the grid. Feel free to explore the other levels. If you just want to see some of the different activities on the grid, feel free. On like 1E, I like to provide different movement breaks, especially during distance learning, because students can, skip the ed puzzle. It's probably not working just because of how I set that up, so I apologize for that. I really love using ed puzzle though. If you're not familiar with it, it allows you to insert any video and then add questions along the way to help you see how many times students are watching videos. You can really see and assist them. You can also use Edpuzzle to check their comprehension on what they watched. About 2 minutes left. On level 2, you might notice like 2D, it says teacher will add text. This is a great place if you notice a student is struggling or excelling. You could add differentiated work right into the grid and just say, okay, you're going to do this option, you're going to do this option, depending on the student and what they need. So that is a great place to just see how things are going and be right on spot with formative assessment data that you're getting to move the students along. And I tried to do a lot of the check me's on after the end of the grid just so I can have that black line on the tracking sheet. It really just helps me visually go, okay, these students finished level 1. Let's see how they did on this assessment. And a really great things to use for those type of assessments is Go Formative, Google Forms, and then you can also use like Edulastic. I like to use things that really quickly grade things for students and gives them immediate feedback. So I can quickly see, okay, they understand this part or they don't understand this part, and I can use the data in time and just keep them moving along as needed. And 8 seconds left on our grid, and then we're gonna keep moving and talking about it. All right, the timer is up. I was waiting for it to beep, but I guess it didn't. So that was a long 8 seconds. Sorry about that. So there was a question in the chat that some of you might be having internet/Chromebook slowness or it keeps spinning. I will leave everything in the slide deck and you can look at it once the Wi-Fi or Chromebook issues kind of get fixed. And if you're still having issues, just reach out to me. The best way to reach out to me is on Twitter. I'll put my Twitter handle in the chat. So feel free to DM me on Twitter and I will help you as much as I can. I'm also recording this session so you can go back and rewatch later, or you can speed me up to a certain part in the video if you need to. And I'll send all that information to Patrick. Okay, so as you've noticed, you guys did awesome. It looks like a lot of you got through the grid, at least to 1C. For pacing reasons, I like to provide students a kind of a template of this is what you should get done within the week or 2 weeks. Most grids last 2 weeks, and they usually focus on anywhere from 1 to 4 standards, depending on what teachers are teaching. And I wouldn't say any more than that because you'll just start a new grid once you get to that point. I have a lot of teachers that will create a grid and then they will create another grid so students can work really at their own pace. I have other teachers that use it as like a review throughout the year. So you can really use the grid in any way that you want. I also have teachers that just use the tracking sheet. So that spreadsheet, they put their assignments up there and they don't necessarily use the grid to explain the assignments. They use Google Classroom to do that. So you don't even have to use this template. You can kind of pick and choose, which is really nice. I just like the grid of how it organizes what I want my students to do. It provides a lot of clarity for them. I'm able to put my learning targets on there. I'm able to put directions. I'm able to hyperlink. So that's one reason I just love using this grid model. And again, everything will be hyperlinked on here if you need to go back to it later to review any of this information. And there's blank templates of the Google Sheet, and I will show you where those are at the end. All right, so in the chat, how many of your students does a traditional lesson usually reach? Does it reach some of your students, most of them, all of your students? So a traditional type of lesson where you are teaching direct instruction at the front of the screen. How many students do you typically reach? In the chat box, if you could just real quick let me know. We've got some of them. It's a lot of. And so, yeah, when I was teaching traditionally, I was only reaching some of my students, and it was probably my middle of the range type of students. I wasn't reaching my high. They were bored out of their mind. My low students were completely lost. So yeah, I was reaching only some of them. So now after seeing the grid method, how many of your students do you think you could reach now after seeing that grid? And yeah, you can reach all of your students. Again, you can differentiate. I've seen teachers take that same grid, especially special education teachers, take the grid that the reg ed teacher makes and then they modify it or adapt it to whatever a student needs. And a student might have their own personalized learning grid to excel on different material. Or the teacher might add more examples and everything like that. So just some things with the grid. I mean, as a classroom teacher, you have a lot on your plate. So I had student pace that needed to be accomplished. I had to make sure students were mastering the material in some way. I also had to make sure that I was targeting the standards that needed to be taught. And then I was also had to provide standard-based learning, and I had to provide those targets for students. And it was a lot. I'm very type A. I needed a way to organize all this different information. And so the grid method was really helpful for me in organizing all of the things that I needed to do, especially for an evaluation that I was trying to teach. But I also wanted to be the best teacher that I could possibly be. And so as you saw from the student perspective, the grid allows for scaffolds. I'm able to say, watch this video because you're going to need it later in the lesson. Students can take that video that they learned in level 1 and really go deeper with that material in level 2 and begin to apply it. You're able to add Flipgrid activities so the students can justify their answers. One of my favorite activities is using Can You Find the Air? I taught math, and so we had these different papers for students, and they had to try to find the air and justify why it was wrong and why the student made the mistake and how they could correct it. And so just using those different activities and allowing students to pair up and work in groups to collaborate really increased their knowledge in the content. They enjoyed coming to school. They enjoyed working on these different projects. They had access to different content and activities at their own pace. Some students were able to go slow. Some students, I was able to pull one-on-one and really work with them. They had more teacher feedback and in-time feedback from me. I was no longer taking home papers to grade, and I was able to pull those students in small groups and give them immediate feedback in person to explain the different things that they needed to do. And so once that happened, I was able to move on and help students achieve their learning goals. Parents also felt like students had more ownership on their learning, especially during teacher-parent conferences. And then all of that formative assessment really helped me put it into the grade book, and because we were standards-based grading. And so I was able to say, okay, this student has mastered the material, or this student hasn't, and so they're going to keep working on this material maybe in a couple months, and we're going to go back and review it. And so it really helps students to master, and I had a ton of data on my students because there's so many different formative checks that you're able to provide during that check-in, and they're quick, they're easy. Again, students got feedback from me right away. And so again, on here, it's based on depth of knowledge. So we have level 1 at the bottom, and that's just basic recall. Level 2 activities are more of that skills and concepts that you're trying to do in the classroom. Level 3 is that strategic thinking. Level 4 is extended. And then level 5 is like that independent genius project type of activity that students can work on. And then from here, I've seen teachers take level 1 and put it at the top so the kids work down. Again, make the grid fit for your classroom and what you need. I just liked how the kids were building up to the top, but I've seen it the other way, where level 1 is at the top, level 2 is second, level 3, 4, and then 5. So you could also work from that. And then the activities are left from right. So they are scaffold. So you might have like a video, and then you might do like a vocab, and then you might do a question that the kids have to answer. And so it's very scaffold, so they are set up for success. And then for summative assessments, I like to use project-based learning, especially during this time of remote learning, because students can go and they can take what they've learned and Google it. And then their quick Google form is probably incorrect, and it's not their learning because they've Googled all the answers. So project-based learning can really help when they build those different things. You can have tiered different assessments, and you have performance-based. And so what this kind of looks like is students are writing goals daily of what they want it to focus and what they want to do. They're able to address what they need, and you're able to help students, especially working on those different tasks. They're also able to use peer-to-peer instruction. What I typically do with the grid on the tracking sheet is I say, okay, look for whoever else is in level 2. Those can be your partners. That way they're not interrupting somebody that might be in level 1. So I've used that to help with group work and pairing up students. And then every student, again, is able to work where they're at. And then I'm able to access every learner opportunity. So I'm able to look over all of their data that they've taken from the grid and use it to differentiate my instruction based on what's needed. I try to integrate technology when it's possible and when I think it's going to help that learning standard. I'm not just putting technology in there just to put it in there. I'm actually using the technology strategically to know, okay, this Flipgrid activity is really going to help my students, or this Frere model is going to help them understand those vocabulary words. So you're able to do that. And these are just some examples of classroom examples of using the grid. It doesn't have to all be digital. You can see right here, there's cups. Green is good, yellow is I need help, and then red, I really need help. So you can really see the cups in use. You can have student like geniuses in your class. I've seen teachers use like whiteboards for their grid. You can also use like a filing cabinet for the work, so students know where to pick up 1A, where to pick up 1B, where is that paper for 2A. They know exactly where to go. So these are just some ideas of using it in the classroom. And then again, every student is at their own pace. You can see this student's working independently on a brain pop activity. These two students are collaborating. These students are collaborating too on their iPads. And then over here, they're working together. So again, it can be independent. It can also be group work. And I will go over the tracking sheet of how to block from other students. If you want to see examples, there's math examples linked here, ELA, science, and then other just ideas. We've used it with parent-teacher conferences, if students are refusing to work. And then there's also a website by Ray. I think she's also presenting that she is a really good resource. And then I worked with one of my teachers on a resource as well of just coming up with like, what are some level 1 activities? So could we use FAIR models? Could we use Quizlet? Could we use Edulastic? And then going to level 2, what are some of those activities look like? Because my teachers really struggled with DOK. And here are the blank templates of the tracking sheet and the grid if you want to use any of them. And then for my Google Innovator project, I had the opportunity to go to Sydney, Australia, which was an amazing, amazing experience. And when I went, my problem in education was there was a student, her name was Bella, and she really struggled in school. She had dyslexia. And Bella was really good at drawing, but did I let her draw in my class? No, I didn't, and I failed her because sketchnoting could have really helped that student. And so when I was in Sydney, Australia, I also realized that a lot of my teachers struggled with depth of knowledge. They let their students with disabilities stay at the level 1 area, which is that basic recall. And so my project, every month I focused on a different area that Hattie suggests. And so the first month I did relationships. And I just took relationships and I really looked into it and how I can take it from DOK 1 all the way to DOK 4. A lot of my teachers, including myself, was only at DOK 1. And that was just sending a Google form home, looking at the data. Where we really could have created better relationships with students by going to DOK 4 and having those morning meetings with students. And so there's tons of resources on this website. Feel free to use any of these different ideas in your grid or in your classroom to really help. But it really did increase my teachers in their understanding of what is expected and how do I move from a DOK level 1, which is just a quick Quizlet activity, all the way to level 4, which one does the long activity. And just seeing that movement in my teachers' classrooms was amazing. And then also, I just wanted to give a shout out to Teach Better. I know they're at the conference today, and this is where I've learned everything from them. I highly suggest looking at their website, their Twitter, their podcast, attending their sessions because they're really awesome. They helped me with my Google Innovator project, and I just cannot get over enough how much personalized learning using this model has helped in my own classroom in my own district. And before we end, I'm going to show you real quick on here the tracking sheet. This is how you can protect the range for every single student. So on here, if I go up to, there we go, to row 4. So everything on row 4 is highlighted. You're going to do 2 fingers, 1 click. So you're going to right click, protect range. And then over here, I type the student's name in, set permission, and then I'm going to type custom if it doesn't pop up. And then I'm going to type my email in. Once you type your email in, you say done. And then you go to row 5 and do the next student. So again, you make sure the whole row's highlighted. Click 2 fingers, 1 click, right click, and protect range. There we go. I'm going to type in Rachel. I'm sure I have a friend's name Rachel in my email contacts. I don't know if they want an email though. So then I can make sure Rachel has this grid. And then you want to make sure you unclick all the other students. So right here, there's a box, and then I can say, okay, this is my co-teacher. I need them to have access. And then I just hit done, and she gets added to that grid. Then you're gonna go to the next student. 2 fingers, 1 click, protect range, and you keep going until you're done with your list. A lot of my teachers will do class 1, class 2, class 3 tabs at the bottom. And once you have your grid set up, you can't just make a copy of it. You would have to re-protect range. So what I suggest my teachers do is take all of this information, do file, make a copy. You'll copy the information, and then every single Monday or whenever you start a new grid, just delete the original and keep using the original. That way your copy is all there. You have the data. You can reach out to parents if they need to. Another suggestion is just taking your original, duplicating it, and then I'm going to just keep it copied, but I would usually put the date. And then right here, I'm going to go to protect sheet, and I'm able to lock it. I usually put the week of right here. And now nobody can touch it, but for me, I can add whoever I need to touch it, but I usually am going to leave it locked. And that way I can quickly see who has not finished their assignments for the week. And then I just go to my original, take all this data and delete it. Maybe. And we're back to the start. And I keep all the students' names. I change them all to they're good. So everything looks good. And then they're able to keep going. And then again, the second week, make a copy of this. So I duplicate it. And then I change it to the week of, and I protect it. So again, to protect it, you just go to protect sheet. And then I can lock it. So only I can make edits if I need to. And yes, there are always issues with kids changing other students' tabs. Usually that is one student in the class that enjoys to be funny. And so I just protect all the sheets. On the spreadsheet, I just found this quick trick. It's not really a quick trick, actually. It's a lot of setup at the beginning. There's an import range option. And so I'm getting really good at sheets. I've created a blog post, and you can feel free to watch this video. It just goes over this section of the post. And what you're able to do is, let me go ahead and open these up. So what you'll do is you'll use this formula. It's equals import range. You put the link of the spreadsheet, and then you put A4 to whatever you go to. And so let's go ahead and share this screen. Everything's loading very slowly. Okay. So one of my teachers, she is setting it up like this. They're doing, they're going to work together. So ELA, math, science, social studies, they're all going to work together and put their assignments here. And then the kids will write, they'll all get a copy of this document. They'll all get a document of this. They'll all get a copy of this in their Google Classroom. So she's already set up all of the tabs that the students will need. And instead of having the status on the left-hand side, she just added it to the grid. She didn't want to have to like move her eyes as much. So that's an option. Again, make it work for what you need to do. And you can see here she has working. She can change it to whatever she needs for that student. And so then every student again gets a copy of this in Google Classroom. So then when she goes to Google Classroom, there's a folder in the Google Classroom. And if you need step-by-steps, there's a video of how to do all of this in the blog post. All you have to do is click the link. And so then she'll go to Drive, the Drive folder with all of these documents. She's going to copy the URL, and you paste it into this Google Sheet. Let me go ahead and share this sheet real quick. And you just write equals import range. And then you do quotations, you do the sheet, quotations, comma, and then you're going to do quotations again. I go back to the sheet just to see what I need. So I need A4. And I need it to go to U. So U4. And then you hit enter, it's going to load. and I can see once the student goes to their sheet, I can now see their data pop up. I can't edit their data because all I'm seeing is their data. So if you want to use this, you'll have to take a screenshot of it at the end of the week or print it so you have record of who needs to do what. But that's a workaround. So every student can only see theirs and then you get to see everybody's. So that could be another option. And again, that's a one-time setup, and then you just train the kids every single Monday, go to your sheet and just hit delete and have everything go white. She also added her parent portal information in here so that students could quickly go to their like team hub and they're able to contact their teachers, they're able to see their syllabus, they're able to see their calendars, they're able to see everything all in one area so that they can really contact their teachers and dig deep into what they need. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat during this time. I'm gonna leave about 5 minutes for any questions. Feel free to come off mute or just ask in the chat. And I'll put the link one more time in the chat just in case anybody needs it. And if there's no questions, have fun at your next session. Yeah, no problem, David. And if you guys need any help on that blog on my website, I've got so many different tutorials of how to reprotect if you need to see a video again, or if you need to learn how to use the import range. Just so that video can process, but feel free